I still don't know what your principles are. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Dr. Anwar Youssef Dunbar, and the title of this video is I don't know what your principles are. And as with many of my videos, there is a story behind this. This one doesn't involve my father. It involves another man who I would consider to be another father. So it's my mentor. And I've talked about this gentleman in numerous writings. Before I jump in, this is interesting. My mentor has given me a lot of material in terms of my writing and now in terms of my video content. And in the Rich Dad Poor Dad books, Robert talks about his rich dad, Robert Kiyosaki, and a lot of critics have questioned whether or not his rich dad is a real person or if it's a figment of Robert's imagination that he's made up to sell books. And one of the things you realize when you start writing and producing content is you do want to be careful about protecting people's identities. So I refer to my mentor, as an anonymous individual. He could be someone that I'm making up just to tell my own stories, or he could be real. No one knows except for me. Anyhow, in the last video regarding updates and changes to the channel and lessons learned, I ended that video by saying that I would make something, or I would record something about my principles, because I do cover multiple topics, even though I do have my topic areas that I have my main topic areas, but I talk about numerous things. So I thought it would be important to go back and make a video about what my principles are. And when I started the Big Words blog site, my mentor actually said that to me. He said one day during one of our mentoring sessions, he said, you know, I don't know what your writings are based on. I don't know what your principles are. And then I kind of gave him a blank stare, like what do you want? I did all this work. I researched WordPress. I bought a domain. I made a cover page. I created the story for my blog. I did all this work. I took these pictures. What more do you want? So he said, you know, principles are what you believe in, you know, and so that when people are reading your writings, or in this case watching your videos, they should know what your values are and what your drivers are and what your content is sitting on, so that when they're reading it or they're watching it, they'll know where that's coming from. So those are that's what he was talking about, and that's what he told me. So I went ahead and actually created a set of principles for myself, which are on the Big Words blog site. And I'm going to leave the link to those in the description box below. But first, I'm going to actually read the definition of what principles are out of Webster's 9th New Collegiate Dictionary. So, Webster's definition of principles are, or is, a comprehensive and fundamental law. I'm not going to read all of this because it's long. A doctrine or an assumption. A rule or a code of conduct. habitual devotion to right principles, the laws or facts of nature underlying the working of an artificial device, a primary source, origin, an underlying faculty or endowment, an ingredient that exhibits or imparts a characteristic quality, Christian Science, a divine principle, God. So that's just the gist of it. So it's a foundation. It's what something is sitting upon. So I'm going to go over my principles now. If you haven't, please like the video. Please click the thumbs up button. That helps me and helps my channel advance in YouTube's algorithm, and it's free. Let's see. So I'm going to go over these high level. I'm not going to read these verbatim word for word because you could look at them yourselves. But the first principle, creating ecosystems of success. So, and lo and behold, I got that from my mentor. He's the one who introduced me to that concept. And creating ecosystems of success simply means creating environments for others to be successful. And I'm very passionate about that, and particularly in the STEMs, which is why I make content about how I attained my science degree and how I attained my training. And because, as I've said before, my community lags behind in the science, technology, engineering, and mathematics fields. So I think it's important to be visible and to raise awareness of these fields and to get those out there. I'm also passionate about money and financial literacy, and I think that my community kind of lags behind in that area as well. So it's creating environments for others to be successful, whether that's disseminating information, going and doing career days, or whatever. Talking about the qualities of successful people, understanding the concepts of nature versus nurture. These are all a part of creating ecosystems of success. These are things that me and my mentor talk about on the regular. Creative thought. This is something that he and I talked about as well, and this wasn't on my original list, but he kind of pulled my coat and said, creative thought is important as well. And so when you think of creative thought, you want to think about creating new knowledge or coming up with new things. When you think about the word knowledge, the first part of that word is know, K-N-O-W. So that's what's already known. But when you think about creative thought, you're thinking about creating the unknown or creating the new. So think about all of our innovations, these computers, the internet, Facebook, cell phones. People had to use creative thought to create those new and novel inventions which have changed the world. Right now, someone like Elon Musk of SpaceX is working on reusable rockets. So those, prior to his starting SpaceX, we didn't have reusable rockets. And so that's something you want to think about, new things that will change the world. Critical and objective thought. So this involves asking questions and thinking for yourself and separating your emotions from that particular subject. And so it's being able to think objectively and to think on your own and not necessarily follow the crowd or to not necessarily follow the prevalent thinking. Someone like, I believe it's Galileo, was one of the first scientists to suggest that the sun was the center of our solar system and the earth wasn't. And again, I could be wrong here. If I'm wrong about this, please leave it in the description box below. But I'm a part of an astronomy group, so I should know this. But I think it was Galileo. But the point is that at some point, someone had to say the sun is actually the center of our solar system, and it's not the Earth. The same thing is true with Darwinism and evolution. Someone had to say, in this case, Charles Darwin, and there was another scientist who was working on this at the time, that nature has a process by which certain organisms are selected for. And that went against the concept of creationalism. So critical thought is thinking for yourself even when it goes against where the crowd is going, and asking questions that may be unpopular for the crowd. Let's see, empowerment, liberation, and strengthening of others. I think that folds back into creating ecosystems of success. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time there. Self-accountability. I'm pretty big on that. I think that we all have a lot of control over our decisions and our outcomes, and there are consequences for the things that we do and that we don't do, and that I believe that we're all self-accountable. Self-reliance. I'm pretty big on self-reliance, and I think this also falls back into creating ecosystems of success. And I'm thinking a lot about the financial piece here, and financial literacy and learning about money, in my opinion, in that context, lead to self-reliance. So you're not dependent on others, or you're not dependent on the will of others. You can fund your own candidates. You can build your own schools. You can start your own businesses without relying on others. So depending on yourself, depending on your own resources, having agency, that's self-reliance. The teaching of wealth building and financial literacy, I think that folds back into self-reliance, and I think that falls back into creating ecosystems of success. We live in for now, and this might change, we live in a capitalist society, and so money dictates everything. It dictates romances and marriages, it dictates education, it dictates business and government, and it influences churches, and it dictates everything. The military, humanitarian aid around the world. So, and that's something I'm very passionate about, and that's why I'm very passionate about it, and that's that it's involved in everything, and it controls everything, in my opinion, and you have to understand it to make yourself self-reliant and independent. So that's why I'm big on that, and that's why teaching that and spreading those messages for me is so big, because there are a lot of things that I didn't know growing up, and had I known them, many of my life decisions would have been different. I'm going to talk about that in subsequent videos. And then this is a huge one. The last one is long-term thinking and delayed gratification. So that's I'm sure a lot of you have heard the term, or should I say the phrase or the slogan, it's not chess, it's chess, not checkers. I almost messed that up. So it's not chess, it's checkers. So the game of chess, which I believe might be one of the greatest games ever, not football, not poker or blackjack, but chess, because anyone can play it, and it's a thinking person's game. And a lot of times, to win chess, you have to understand the value of the pieces, and then you have to think several moves ahead. You know, you don't win the game if you just take one of your opponent's pieces. You have to figure out how to mate your opponent's king. And a lot of times that requires sacrificing certain pieces in the interim so that you can have the advantage later on. And in my experience, life is that way as well, particularly when you're pursuing your education. It could be another goal. It could be a financial goal. It could be something like weight loss. But you're putting something off, a pleasure and indulgence in the short term to get a greater gain later. I will probably talk about this more, but for example, right now I don't have a car. I live right next to the metro, and I have some other plans for my money right now. For example, like I want to invest it and I want to figure out how to flip the money to make more money. And one of my short-term sacrifices is owning a vehicle. And the people who don't have a long-term mindset can't see past not owning a car right now. And I'm going to revisit that. I'm going to revisit that in later videos, and I've actually written a blog post about that already. But those are my principles. My mentor said they should grow and change and evolve over time, and so I probably will update that list at some point, but those are my principles for now. So anytime I make a video or I write something, you'll know what those writings are sitting upon. So I've talked for long enough. I'm the treasurer for one of my alumni associations, and I have to call the treasury secretary before it gets too late because we have a meeting on Saturday. And I'm going to stop this video here. If you haven't, please like the video. Please share this video. And if you haven't, please subscribe to the channel. And with that, always remember that your attitude determines your altitude. Take care, and I'll talk to you the next time. Bye-bye.